Welcome to the Write Good Books podcast, the audio companion to WriteGoodBooks.com, with your host Jason Bougger.
Hey, we're back. Thanks for checking in. I'm Jason, joined again by our co-host Scott Michael Childers. How you doing?
Is it really me?
Is it really you? That's a good question to ask, because today we are going to talk about plot twists and surprise endings. And this is a bit of a follow-up to last time when we talked about endings in general. We figured we didn't have enough time to talk about twists. We'd like to go a little more detail. So, let's talk about it. How would you define a twist ending?
A twist ending.
Or a twist in general.
All right, well, allow me to quote from the wonderful source known as Wikipedia. A plot twist is a radical change in the expected direction or outcome of the plot of a novel, film, television series, comic, video game, or other work of narrative, as it stands at the time of the recording. And really, what more can we say? It is a radical departure from what you were expecting. How that happens, there's many different ways, of course. If it happens near the end, that's a surprise ending, or a twist ending, or whatever other nomenclature you want to put to it.
And I think we'll keep the focus mostly on twist endings for the sake of this episode of the podcast.
Yes.
And this is cool because a twist ending can sometimes make or break a story.
Oh, okay.
Or a movie, or a wrestling match, or whatever.
Yeah, it can take something good to great.
Yeah.
Or it can take something great to horrible.
Yes, it can. And the key is to make sure it's done right and makes sense and is consistent with the rest of the story, I think. You don't want it to come out of nowhere, or you'll leave the readers disappointed.
Well, let's refine that statement. Yeah. Let's refine that statement a little bit. It could come from nowhere, but it still needs to be consistent with the rest of what you've been talking about.
Yeah.
It still needs to be within the realm of plausible. Mm-hmm. Not even possible, not as wide open as possible. It still needs to be plausible when you do your twist.
Yeah, it needs to make sense in the context of the story.
Yeah, and however you've done it in the past, it needs to have some sort of, yes, this still fits within this world that has been created.
Can we throw out a spoiler from a movie in 98? You know, in The Sixth Sense.
Well, we don't have to say what it is, what the twist is. Everyone knows there's a twist now.
That's true. But, you know, the interactions of the character, they had to be careful to make sure that the interactions through the characters were, after the twist is revealed,
right,
didn't ruin that. Say, oh, wait a minute, how could that have been when this happened? And
yeah, everything was still plausible in what was presented. Mm-hmm. And that's what made it really, I think, on repeat viewings, it made it even stronger, because it was all there. Now, granted, you may not have had a clue that was the twist, but it was all there at the beginning, and once you know what the twist is, you can see it, and it builds, and so that made it even a stronger type of ending.
Yeah.
At least in my mind. Some of you may argue, or not.
I remember, I'm going to have to go into old man mode for a second. I remember being in the theater, and you just have that second, it's like, whoa, and then you hear everybody else in the theater gasp. That was just so cool.
Yeah. And so, twist endings can be an extremely powerful tool to bring in. However, you got to be careful on how you craft it if you're going for the, and not just the twist ending, but any big twist in your process. I saw a twist beginning, to tell you the truth. It was fabulous. It was a comic book series back, and I'd have to go back and look, called The Black Hood. And it's not the one that came out recently. It was, look under DC Impact line, Black Hood. And I'm going to spoil it for you, because now it's like 20 years, 30 years old. But the main character, the Black Hood, dies in the first issue. I've spoiled it for you. Forgive me. And so the title character dying in the first issue is like, whoa, anything could happen.
It's like Hitchcock.
And it set the tone for, now here's the problem with a twist beginning. The rest of it didn't follow through. The rest of the series just like, oh, this is so mundane. Yeah. There's no more surprises. So they had a great setup. But anyway, and you can edit all that out if you want. But
No,
twist
that's-
endings are a fabulous place
Yeah.
because you don't have to follow up that twist.
Yeah, all you have to do is make sure it's consistent. You do have to be careful though, because if you don't if it's not consistent, it really will ruin the story. You know, people can rage about The Sixth Sense, but I thought the twist at the end of The Village was just awful. And I think most people would agree if they've seen it. Maybe not, but I suppose I don't have to get into why I thought it was awful. Just Google it. There's other bad twists when they're not consistent within the character, and I think you see this in pro wrestling all the time. You know, you'll have the good guy turn bad guy, the bad guy turn good guy, and there's usually not a lot of reason for it.
Well, and it's like what you know of the character at the time. And then suddenly this major change in motivation for no real reason.
Yeah.
What has changed with that character to give them that change in motivation?
Right. And to pull up a reference from decades ago, you know, Kevin Nash, Big Daddy Cool Diesel, is such a bad guy, and they say, hey, let's make him a good guy because he's getting cheered. So now all of a sudden, instead of being a bad guy, he's the smiling, kissing babies, and the audience didn't buy it because it was not consistent with his previous character.
Right. And nothing was shown to make that motivation change. It just
Right.
happens out of the blue. So those are some character twists that may happen.
Yeah, which isn't really a twist ending,
No.
but I like bringing it up.
Yeah. Well, it shows that if you're doing a twist in character behavior, there has to be shown why that character's behavior changed. Now, it could be in a flashback to make it a little bit more palatable, I guess, to make it plausible. And it could be one of those things where you set up the twist, flashback scene, and then the actual change of behavior.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, depending how your pacing goes. So, I mentioned the Wikipedia entry at the very beginning of this. If you go to there, you will see all sorts of examples of types of twist endings under surprise ending. And so there's many different ways that you can make a major change in the ending of your book. I don't know, did you want to go through any specific types, Jason? Or I do want to point out one that, looking at this, I might change what I said in a previous podcast.
Oh, really?
Because you said something about the unreliable narrator lying, right? I said, don't do that. Okay, I found the example on why you might want to do that. Fight Club.
Fight Club, I suppose.
Unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most well known. There's others out there.
That's interesting.
Agatha Christie, one of my favorite authors. The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. Unreliable narrator, twist ending. The Usual Suspects, a great movie, twist ending, unreliable narrator.
Stephen King's done that with Secret Window and with The Dark Half, and those are both along the same lines as Fight Club.
Right. So I'm going back on what I said about a lying narrator. However, when they did it, it was all within the realm of plausibility. So, big record scratch on that recording of what I'd said before. But there's other ways to do it besides unreliable narrators, right?
Yeah.
What's the one you tell your kids at night, Jason? The Deus Ex Machina.
Oh, Deus Ex Machina. Deus Ex. I need to brush up on my Latin.
Yeah.
That is Latin, I believe.
Well, it's certainly not French.
Deus Ex Machina. Yeah, I suppose that's They list that as a surprise ending.
Yeah, but it's not usually a good one.
No, it's not. And, you know, that goes back to it's not answering the promises that you made. I mean, it doesn't work because you're setting up your characters to resolve their plot, and instead an outside force comes in and saves the day.
Well,
And I use that when I tell my kids nighttime stories and I get tired of talking, and so then I just have their superhero come and save the day, if anyone's wondering out there.
it fulfills it's plausible type of things in some cases, but it's not rewarding in many cases because it's a twist just for the twist. It's often over, it's this sledgehammer approach to a twist where a twist might be better served by using a scalpel.
Yeah. There's lots of ways to be bad twists. I wanted to say, before we talk about those, because they kind of, a good twist, I keep going back to it, but it needs to be consistent with your story, and a lot of the bad twists aren't. There's, I hate I hate to say hate. I hate when I get a story from Theme of Absence and I invest in the characters and then you find out that what you were reading wasn't really what was happening. It was a dream, it was a hallucination, it was a, the government mind-altering drug or something like that, and whatever you thought. And I know that works for some people. The Matrix is real popular. But I still feel like you owe it to your reader to tell the truth. And a good twist, you're still telling the truth. Even with an unreliable narrator, you're not directly lying to the reader to trick them. You're hiding some of the facts to entertain them. And there's a line.
Okay, so as opposed to a lie, it's withholding of facts.
Maybe.
And I do see those as two different things.
Yeah.
And lying sets up one type of twist at the end, where you reveal, I was lying to you.
Yeah.
Whereas withholding of facts sometimes works well and sometimes does not, because of which facts you withhold. If you get to the end and you say, oh, by the way, here's all these facts that you didn't know, bam, then it comes off as a deus ex machina.
Right.
At least I've had some readings. I've read different books by the same author, and they've had some twist endings. Some have worked really well. There was one I remember where it's like the ending was just like none of this had been revealed throughout the rest of the book as a murder mystery, and now I felt really, why did I waste my time reading the rest of the book? Because none of this at the ending was revealed. There was no possible clue to get to this twist ending. And it did not feel rewarding. It did not feel like, oh my gosh, that's great. Right. It was like, what? There was nothing there that tied back to the rest of the story.
I know exactly what you mean. And to go back to pro wrestling, it's when a character turns into a bad guy for no reason other than to shock the audience.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I'll throw out my random weird example of a good plot twist. It's Saw 4. My favorite horror movie.
Okay.
They have a huge twist there that still, to this day, blows my mind. But whenever they do the twist at the end of a Saw movie, they kind of rip off The Sixth Sense. They show you a quick montage of flashbacks to show you the build-up to that twist.
Right.
And then you're like, whoa, that worked.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people don't think they work,
but they're showing you here are the pieces that if you paid attention to all of these big pieces,
right,
this big ending isn't a twist,
right,
or it's less of a twist, but no one pays attention to those little details.
Right.
So I'm for twists, beginning, middle, and end, but again, keep them within the context of the story, keep it plausible, and make sure you're not. I think in this case you could even lie to your reader and withhold facts from them, but it's not when the twist happens. Oh, by the way, you had absolutely no foreshadowing, no chance of guessing this. This is just for the shock of it.
Right, that's when it's bad, when there's no realistic explanation.
Yeah, so the reader feels punished. You don't want your reader to feel punished because you do a twist.
Yeah.
You want them to be, oh, wow, this has been a great ride, and now it just got better.
You don't want the reader to feel like they wasted their time, like they might with a dream sequence or whatever, and you don't want them to feel like you were insulting them or trying to trick them, maybe.
Well, you are trying to trick them. But it needs to be like the magician type.
Right, I was just going to say that.
You're a magician, and you're misdirecting, and you're waving a hand over here while your other hand does something else.
Right, it's the magician, not the con artist.
Right. Right, I think that's a really
they're in on the game.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
As opposed to we're trying to steal your money.
Right.
We don't get paid for this podcast very much either. No. So, yeah, I think twist endings can be wonderful, and they can change a reader's thought process on a book dramatically. However, you've got to craft those carefully.
I said earlier, they will make or break your impression of it. If you're unfamiliar with Newhart, go Google Newhart's ending and read about how you do a good surprise ending to a decade-long TV series.
Yeah. And so for our twist ending, I'm actually Stephen King. That's our twist ending. No. That would be a bad twist.
Stephen King.
I'm going to get sued for pretending to be an author.
Hey, this is like totally unrelated, but I want to mention it. There's a There's an author named Stephen King on Amazon.
Oh, yes, I've read that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Who's not like Stephen King.
Yeah.
I think there's lawsuits and stuff. But
I'm sure.
I think I first heard about that when I saw Stephen King live. He was talking about it. Anyhow, sorry.
Is there anything else that you want to...
I think that's it. Just make sure your twist makes sense and fits the story, and if it's out of nowhere, you better be able to back it up, because the best ones, the reader needs to be able to see it coming on their second viewing or reading.
Yeah.
And if they don't, then it's done poorly.
Yeah. I'll tell you, if you must have an out-of-nowhere twist, do it in the middle of the book so you can spend more of the book explaining how this character or this reality changed from what you started. But you've got to do some follow-through if you're doing a mid-book twist.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be long, but you need to reset that stage. So,
and finally, look out for the cliches and stay away from them. They've been done to death. I've seen so many submissions to Theme of Absence where the narrator turns out to be a ghost. Just keep that in mind. And I think we're at a decent enough closing space. What's our twist ending?
our twist ending is there is no twist.
There's no twist.
Dun,
But we
dun,
will be
dun.
back. We'll be back. Our twist is a sequel, I
A
guess.
sequel. Twist endings part 2. It never ends.
Yeah. Jason Voorhees opens his eyes as the camera fades away to scary music. Thanks for listening, and check us out on the web at www.writegoodbooks.com/podcast. See you next time.
Or maybe not. Da, da, da.